Right, good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for being here today. My name is Jessica Agnew, and I'm the Associate Director of a unit at a university in the US called Virginia Tech. I'm with CALS Global, so that's the global unit in the College of Agriculture and Life Sciences. And I'm also the managing editor for the Global Agricultural Productivity Report. So the GAP report is the heart of what we call the GAP initiative within CALS Global, and it's under that initiative that we're here with you all today. So the GAP initiative really seeks to advance and motivate action and investment in enhancing agricultural productivity growth around the world. And when we discuss with our partners in private sector and NGOs, civil society, institutions like FAO, we've heard a common lament from around the world that so much of the research that we're doing within universities like Virginia Tech and other research institutions are not really making it to the smallholder producers and other food system actors that really need it the most. And so in the past year, I've learned a little bit more about technology transfer functions, and we hear a lot at these events about youth entrepreneurship. So I started thinking to myself, what if youth could have in their minds that are feeling very entrepreneurial, but maybe don't have the innovation or the solution themselves, but feel like they could successfully run a company that was built on the technologies, innovations, and solutions of researchers and scientists around the world, and really motivate the widespread adoption of those innovations. So this session this morning is going to look at how we might cultivate youth to build skills and career pathways that would position them to help bridge the so-called valley of death. So the gap between resources available for foundational research and widespread adoption. So this morning, it is my great pleasure to turn this over to some students, both from Virginia Tech and Penn State. So both Virginia Tech and Penn State are what's called land-grant universities. So land-grant universities in the US have a tripartite mission for education, research, and also outreach. So I think we're a pretty good fit for tackling this challenge. And I'm very blessed to be working with some amazing students who were also interested in the topic. And so I tasked them with taking care of this session today. So I'm going to turn it over to them for introductions and to convene our panelists. We also have a few panelists online joining us from Kenya and Nigeria. And we're very pleased to be able to welcome all of you this morning. And thank you so much for being here. Without further ado, over to you all.
Hi all, thank you all so much for coming. My name is Teresa Thornton. I'm a senior studying public health and environmental economics. My focus is study on entrepreneurship, public health initiatives, and food security.
Hi everyone, thank you all for being here today. My name is Austin Elliott and I am a junior from Virginia Tech. I am studying biochemistry and psychology with a focus in the biotech sector.
Hi everyone, my name is Ram Neopane. I'm a PhD student in the Pennsylvania State University, and my research interests include plant health, international agriculture and development, and agriculture policy. I'm also the member of Young Scientist group of World Food Forum, and thank you for coming to this session.
Hey everyone, I'm Raymond. I'm a junior at Penn State studying ag and biorenewable systems and computer engineering. I'm also in our food and bio entrepreneurship program. I focus a lot on working with emerging technologies with our Penn State Extension group.
Hi everybody, my name is Jack Kelly. I'm a senior ag business management student at Penn State, minoring in entrepreneurship and innovation, and my focus is on ag innovation on a global scale.
Let's start this off with a story. And some of you guys might know this guy. It's a guy named Hunter Swisher. He started this company called Phosphollutions at Penn State. And the story goes, he was in one of his plant science classes at Penn State. His professor started talking about this cool fertilizer that could keep the nitrogen fixated or phosphorus fixated to the root of the plant. And so he thought, oh my gosh, this could help us stop phosphorus runoff into our waterways. And so he went to some of our entrepreneurial staff and he went through the process of commercializing that technology out of the university. He took this technology out of the university in 2016. Now it is 2024, so it has been 8 years. And that process has not been easy. He has had to work his butt off to raise money, to go to investors, build a team, and really, really work really hard just to make this technology a market viable product. And this is something that is extremely common all throughout the United States and the world. It is extremely hard to take any of this research and IP out of universities and try to turn them into products. And Jet can elaborate a little bit more about how hard it is.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And so this story really highlights entrepreneurship on a college level and even a global scale. It's having the ability to take new ideas and share them with the world. And it's bringing innovation to market quicker using creative business models, digital tools, and access to funding, mentorship, and supportive policies. Now, a big issue that young entrepreneurs have is the valley of death. And this is the gap between that early stage research and the successful commercialization of innovations. Now, when it's introduced into different farming systems or other ag systems, it often struggles to adapt. So for example, innovations that thrive in one region might not work in the other due to difference in climate, soil, and farming practices. But the complexity of these different ag systems, ranging from varying policies to unpredictable environment conditions, makes it very challenging to scale these innovations effectively. And that's why entrepreneurship and the different land grant institutions and us as students need to find a way to implement ways to get over that valley of death, to get from that initial research to that final scaling of the business on a larger scale.
Well, today we have amazing panelists who are working to scale those innovations, like innovations that comes from youth and then scale it and to get through those valley of death. And I want to introduce our first panelist, Emily Lanier. Emily is a licensing officer at Virginia Tech. And as a licensing officer at Virginia Tech, Emily Lanier helps researchers translate discoveries into impactful technologies. With over a decade of experience in academic research, agricultural tech startups, and innovation consulting, she guides inventors through intellectual property complexities, and she also holds a PhD in plant biochemistry and a bachelor's in chemistry.
Our next panelist is on Zoom today, unfortunately, but his name is Franklin Ariba, and he's the technical director from Plant Village Plus. Franklin holds a master's in entomology and has extensive experience supporting integrated pest management. He has trained youth in Kenya and 7 other countries in producing and releasing natural enemies for pest control. His work focuses on sustainable climate-resilient pest management to support smallholder farms and ensure global food security.
Next, we have Brenda Chepto, who is the commercial director at Plant Village Plus, specializing in sustainable agriculture and integrated pest management. With a master's in entomology, she has established rearing facilities in 7 African countries and trains youth in bioagent production, promoting climate-smart agriculture and improving food security for smallholder farmers.
We're also super excited to have Gladys Morales with us here today. She is currently the global head of innovation at IFAD, where they help drive initiatives and partnerships with rural agricultural communities. She has previously done work with a lot of multilateral development banks and other UN agencies. Morales holds 3 degrees from Columbia Business School, Georgetown, and University of Rome. Wow. And she is also the Italian ambassador to the Global Blockchain Business Council. Thank you.
Next up on Zoom as well is Feyikemi Adurobangba, the Communications Director at Horta Nigeria Program and IFDC, and she is a communications specialist with over 13 years of experience, primarily in Nigeria's NGO sector. As communications coordinator for the Dutch-funded Horta Nigeria program, she leads strategic initiatives to boost youth and women participation, market access, and awareness on pest management, leveraging storytelling, PR, and digital marketing.
Yeah, now we already did a introduction of our panelists, and I know that we are very excited to hear their insights about how they are helping to scale the innovation, youth innovation more specifically. I want to go to Emily. How have you seen university develop agri-food innovations scaled and commercialized? And I have another tail question to this, and how can youth entrepreneurship play a big role in getting more inventions out to the world in the future?
Hi, everyone. I'm honored to be here and be part of this conversation. As Ram said, I work in the technology transfer office at Virginia Tech. So I'm managing the intellectual property aspects and licensing of all of the agri-food innovations that are coming out of Virginia Tech and all of the great research that happens there. So our ultimate goal in the office is to identify, impactful research discoveries in this area, and then try to find partners that can invest in the additional work and money and time needed to commercialize these discoveries and get them across this valley of death that we've been talking about. So I'm going to talk a little bit about, the context of tech transfer specifically within the US, which is, shaped by US policy as well as the university policies. So typically we carry this out. We find partners to license these technologies to. They're usually protected by some kind of patent or copyright invention, which kind of provides some incentive for that private investment. And we're going to license those to either a large established company or to a startup, like Raymond mentioned earlier. So there's kind of distinct benefits and drawbacks to both of those when it comes to getting the technology out to market. With larger companies, we have much larger budgets to work with, which can be really helpful with all the development and scaling needed for these new technologies. They're able to kind of handle a longer time horizon of risk before the technology needs to make money to support the company. They've already got large teams of experienced scientists, business leadership, and everyone that can shepherd it through. However, one of the really big difficulties we find is that a lot of technologies stay on the shelf. We have a hard time finding large companies that are willing to put that level of investment into every single thing that comes out of our labs because, companies have to support themselves, and large companies usually have very well-defined business plans, specific areas that they're looking to develop in. And so if university technology is, not perfectly in sync with kind of the private market's needs, then it's going to be hard to find that large company to invest. So this is really where startups come in and have a distinct advantage. So often university innovation is far ahead of the private market. We're working on things that are unproven, new and exciting, have really great capabilities, but the academic scientists usually can't get funding beyond that initial proof of concept, just kind of enough for an academic publication. So they're going to be looking at the basic science, doing a very initial proof of concept, but there's not often, the funding or the will within academic science to, do multi-year field trials, testing things in different contexts, like we talked about before. Maybe it works in one really specific area, and they're not going to be able to scale up any kind of materials to production level and deal with all the challenges that come with that. So startups can, form around these early stage innovations, take on a greater level of risk than large companies usually do. And passionate entrepreneurs really can be the best way to hone these inventions into real products, using resources like venture capital, government grants, incubators, and all of the other resources available to kind of get across that valley of death into a real product. So this is, where I'd like to address the second question of youth involvement. I think it can be really important. I'm going to highlight another story, kind of very similar to what Raymond mentioned as an example. This one actually comes from University of Virginia. There was a couple of undergraduate students also about 8 years ago doing undergraduate research in the lab of Professor Mark Kester, a pharmacology professor who worked in nanomaterials. So it sounds, like it would be pretty far from an agritech company. But they were able to develop kind of a biological nanoparticle that could break down a wide variety of substances. And after a lot of market fit and searching, they realized that could have a perfect application in agriculture. And so now 8 years later, they have a company called Agrospheres that works on targeted pesticide delivery with this nanomaterial they developed and licensed from UVA. They've gotten millions of dollars in investment. They're building a plant in Virginia, providing jobs to the local area, and then really addressing some of the needs highlighted by the GAP initiative, which is, minimizing the cost of inputs for farmers, mitigating the negative effects of agriculture on the environment and on human health. And so I think this is a really great success story, but, truthfully, those are few and far between, when I kind of went searching in our archives to see where this is happening. And so, greater youth involvement in the entrepreneurial space in the university research system, within the US, we're definitely set up to be able to license technologies to startups. Some of the best ways to do that is to be involved in the research at the ground level. Coming in from the outside is certainly possible, but we see undergraduates, graduate students, postdocs, they're the ones that can drive the innovation from the lab to the marketplace. So, while we have all these academic professors who are putting out really great work, I have probably 7 or 8 who I'm working with right now who would absolutely be great candidates for startups. And I say, do you have somebody that can work with you to commercialize this? And they say, no, I don't have a student who's interested. So for those students to get involved with research, knowing that you don't just have to do research to be an academic scientist, you can get involved with that science at the ground level and then take it out into the marketplace.
Thank you for that amazing response to that question, Emily. So our next panelist, Franklin, my first question for you is, how have you worked alongside Penn State and the Feed the Future Current and Emerging Threats to Crop Innovation Lab to successfully implement an entrepreneurial approach to creating more sustainable food systems?
Okay, thank you for the question. So Penn State currently hosts the Feed the Future for Current and Emerging Threats to Crops Innovation Lab. So as Plant Village is hosted in Penn State, then Plant Village Kenya is the research entity. So during the first year of the grant, we, as a sub-awardees, we were testing different IPM solutions for farmers, whereby we tested these in 1,000 maize fields in Kenya. So what happened is, first of all, is we had a training on mass production of these natural enemies, which are the egg parasitoids of the fall armyworm. So what we did is, first of all, to create awareness, whereby we had an episode running on Shamba Shape Up, which is being aired in one of the national televisions here in Kenya, which is the Citizen TV. So we aired these, and then now farmers, of course, there was after doing the experiment in the farmers' fields, we had, of course, we received different demand for these natural enemies, because, of course, in addition to airing these on natural television, we also train farmers on use of these natural enemies via individual farm visits, then also farmer groups, field days, and then the national television. So what really happens is the Penn State team, we have a group of scientists there who help us, of course, with the technology, the IT experts. We also have entomologists there that help us on, of course, scaling out these solutions. So from that, of course, from the Feed the Future and the Penn State, and Plant Village. So from the collaboration of Feed the Future and Penn State, we have Plant Village Plus born out of that, because now farmers really reached out to demand for these natural enemies. So we had to develop a commercial wing, which is Plant Village Plus, to at least ensure that farmers all over the Kenya, these solutions to get access to this, because one of the challenges that the farmers have is the availability of their natural enemies as compared to synthetic pesticides, which are always available. So once you get these available to the farmers, then they will always reach out. So just about creating awareness, then you get to create a market for these natural.
So much for that amazing response. So my second question for you is, in your experience training youth in pest control and IPM, what are the key challenges they face in scaling these sustainable solutions to larger markets?
Yeah, thank you. So one of the key challenges that they face is limited access to capital and resources. So we have youths lack access to financial support, which involves grants and loans to grow the knowledge and technical gaps, whereby some youths may lack sufficient knowledge that is required in biological control, especially in the mass rearing of these natural enemies. So what we are currently doing is we have this technology transfer whereby we have youths, probably like, for example, in Kenya, training other youths from other different countries. So the knowledge is really a very big challenge. Then we also have market access and demand. So whereby, first of all, to be able to scale out these solutions, first of all, you have to create awareness to the farmers. So if you don't create awareness, it becomes difficult for you to have market demand. So what actually limits the use of this biocontrol and constraints, of which if you do create a good awareness, then you are able to solve these. Then another one is policy and regulatory barriers. So we have limited government support compared to, for the IPM products, compared to synthetic pesticides. Yeah, so then the bureaucratic process of registering these natural enemies or maybe the biocontrol agents is a bit difficult compared to the synthetic pesticides. Yeah, so then we also have inadequate resources in terms of infrastructure, like digital tools for marketing these products. So for us in Plant Village, we've had support from the Penn team, the Plant Village US team on developing these digital tools that will help us market now these integrated pest management products. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us today and for answering those questions for us.
So I have some questions for Brenda. My first question is, how can youth-led enterprises contribute to enhancing climate-smart agriculture and integrated pest management across Africa?
So yeah, thank you for that question.
Welcome.
Emily mentioned a very key thing in the first question. The problem is we have a lot of research that is in the shelves, and we have potential and hungry youths outside here who really want to take up these solutions and scale it out. Another problem that we really have is unemployment for the youth, which as a commercial director of Plant Village Plus, which Franklin has mentioned, Plant Village Plus was born out of Innovation Lab to scale out the research that is in the shelves and give it to youth. So this is youth-led organization that is scaling out these solutions. The potential in these solutions is it addresses specific needs. That means for major problems that we're seeing right now is climate change, emergence of new pests. So I can give a very small example of Plant Village First. So the youths were trained on mass production of these natural enemies that Mr. Franklin has mentioned, and they scaled out these natural enemies to control the problem that is polio. And with that, it has become a potential thing for business. Now the youths are able to sell this and avail it to the farmers who don't have. So the question that farmers kept on asking is, how can we access these, for example, natural enemies? What they can really access all the time is what is available in shops. Most of the time, it's the synthetic pesticides. So when we're able to scale out these innovations and make them into business, then youths can really solve the major problem of climate change. So we've been able to scale out the production of parasitoids for different pests across 7 countries in Africa. Yeah, thank you.
So my second question is, how do you see the role of entrepreneurship evolving and scaling innovations that promote sustainable food systems and improve food security in marginalized communities?
Currently, entrepreneurship is really evolving, and whatever is growing is that the solutions that are being brought up are need specific and they are tailored with solutions. And they've identified related challenges. So for a good example is we have problem of soil acidity. We have a problem of climate change. So you notice that you don't have specific time for rain for those who depend on rain to grow their crops, which is a big problem right now. So these solutions and innovations are tailored with solutions. For example, Plant Village Plus is producing biochar to solve the big problem of acidity in the soil due to continuous use of synthetic fertilizer. We also have the problem of continuous use of synthetic pesticides. So production of these natural biocontrols like parasitoids, like entomopathogenic biopesticide to control fall armyworm, control other pests in the field is really a key thing that is coming up to solve and to increase and to expand the entrepreneurship parts. So majorly it's tailored with solutions, yeah.
Thank you so much.
And now, as the perfect segue, maybe let's take a look at how other organizations could help make this happen. Gladys, how can multi-sectoral partnerships, including those with private sector actors, enhance the scaling of youth-led innovations in agri-food systems?
Thank you, Raymond, for the question. And thank you so much to Jessica and the GAP initiative at Virginia Tech for the invitation. I would like to start by saying that traditional ways of partnering need to be transformed so that we can really scale up innovation. And when I am talking about traditional ways of partnering is when each of us comes together, but we continue even within partnerships to work in silos and not really co-design and work in a way where those designs and the contributions that we make to the different projects and initiatives that we have are really jointly developed and jointly deployed and implemented. So at IFAD, what we're doing differently is through new models of partnerships, such as the Moonshots for Development Alliance, which is the working group of the innovation labs of the international financial institutions, plus the CJR, the European Space Agency, and the private sector. What we're doing is that we're working with new models of blended finance, bringing the financing that is necessary so that we can design initiatives, but also implement and scale up innovation. So blended finance is at the core of the Moonshots for Development Alliance, but also co-designing and making sure that from the beginning, not when the initiatives are already thought of, but from the beginning, we really co-design with all the multi-stakeholders. A key concept when it comes to innovation and technology, and the reason why I say innovation and technology is because not all innovation is technology related. We also need to take into consideration that we need to work on new processes, on new approaches, new models, and that is also innovation. When it comes to innovation and technology, a key role for international financial institutions and for international development organizations in general is our ability to ensure that we are user-centric. And what I mean by user-centric is not that we go and do surveys and consult the project participants or the end user only, but that we ensure that they have a seat at the design tables and that we are designing those technologies with and for our project participants and our end users. We also need to ensure that we have participatory approaches. We talk a lot about participatory approaches, but when it comes really to the development and the implementation of these innovations and technologies, sometimes we forget about best practices. So definitely participatory approaches that are demand-driven, ensuring that we are really responding to the needs of the end user, but also the needs of governments and the context that we have. So innovations and technologies that are fit for purpose. How can we do this in a way that remains competitive, transparent, and that builds trust in those communities? So we're using a model that is very much known to all of you, which is the innovation challenges, so that we can source, identify, test, and then scale up innovations. However, the model that we use for innovation challenges at the Muchos for Development Alliance is different from other models of innovation challenges. First of all, the innovation challenge is not a one-time intervention, but it's more a collaboration with the startups that are selected through a highly competitive selection process. We offer financing, but also skills development and capacity building. And when I say skills development, it's important to take into consideration that I heard that some of you are receiving training in entrepreneurship and innovation, but when you go to these contexts, those skills are not always present. And there is something else that we find that is not always present, which is the ability to understand that startups in developing countries or in general, they don't have the resources, human, time, and financial resources to be able to access markets. So lean entrepreneurship is key to take into consideration that you're working with the startups that don't have 200 people. They don't have a finance department of 30 people to comply with all the regulations and all the policies that governments put in place. So training in lean innovation is fundamental. Working together so that governments have policies and regulation that are responding to the needs of youth and startups is key, so that we lean those processes, that we make the compliance lean as well, and make it easier for them to actually progress and be able to scale up their innovations. So again, it's not only financing, even though financing is key, but it's not only financing, it's skills development and it's capacity building and that dialogue with policymakers to make sure that we have a regulatory framework and a context that makes possible for startups to prosper.
Thank you so much for mentioning that it's not always a one size fits all, right? You can have entrepreneurial training, but it all just comes down to the specific context of where you're trying out that technology. For the second question, with your experiences at IFAD, could you discuss a little bit on how IFAD's digital transformation initiatives are helping to bridge the gap between science-based solutions and the market implementation for these communities?
Thank you again for that question, Raymond. Again, we go back to mindsets. And when it comes to mindsets and when it comes to technology transfer, I think that we have a huge opportunity right now to support investments in digital public infrastructures and digital public goods. One thing that is at the core of our approach for innovation and technology at IFAD is to support investments in companies that share that vision with us, a vision where scaling, adaptability, affordability, sustainability are at the core of our investments. And so those companies need to be open source and open data companies so that we can, really give a chance for innovation to scale up. I'm very happy to see here the representatives from Identi, Robinson and Hugo. Identi is one of the companies that is part of the Laction initiative of the Inter-American Development Bank in Latin America and the Caribbean. The Inter-American Development Bank and IFAD are currently developing a digital public good that can also be a digital public infrastructure when we have those public and private sector partnerships. And through these digital public infrastructures and digital public goods such as Identi, we are able to offer access to emerging technologies such as artificial intelligence, but also blockchain to small scale farmers in an affordable, scalable, and sustainable way. So affordability and accessibility remain at the core of our investments, ensuring that we have those principles driving our investments, but also creating this ecosystem where you analyze through initiatives like blockchain and agro-Web3, but also the mentality of the private sector companies that are part of our alliance, ensuring that they are developing with the end users, and that we have an ecosystem development approach. This is very, very key, because it's through the ecosystem development approach that you can really change the lives of farmers, allowing for them to have market access. And by ensuring that you have that ecosystem development approach, where you look at what are all the possible interactions that the farmer has throughout the day. What are all the possible solutions that we need to think of, so that we are really addressing resilience and really increasing incomes and giving new opportunities for market access. Blockchain presents also tremendous opportunities to rebuild trust and transparency in the system, especially in the midst of the potential of AI, but also the perils and the dangers of AI. Solutions like the one that Ident is implementing in Latin America make it possible for these technologies to be accessible also in areas that are marginalized and with no connectivity. But they make the information that we can process with AI and the agility that we can have with AI for credit access and financial inclusion to be also secure, to be also safe through biometric recognition. How many of you have seen those videos on social media, where they make us aware of the fact that today, with voice messages and AI, the voice of our family members can be imitated in such an accurate way that we would be willing to transfer significant amounts of money to people just because we believe that the person in the phone is someone that we know and needs help. With blockchain technologies and associating with companies like the ones that are members of blockchain and agro-Web3, we ensure that with biometric recognition, no transfer will be made unless the voice that we hear, the face that we see in our smartphones is really the voice of the people that we intend to. It takes only 1 cent of a dollar to go to the wrong hands for these projects to lose reputation and to destroy all the hard work that we're doing.
Thank you so much for emphasizing how important it is to have an ecosystem to support these new technologies, and also emphasizing maybe some of the downsides and things to be aware of when it comes to adopting these technologies. Thank you so much.
Our next question is for Feyikimi. What role does storytelling play in promoting market access for youth-led agri-innovations, especially in reaching women and marginalized farmers?
Thank you very much. This is an exciting question, and thank you, Virginia Tech, for this opportunity to share this insight. This particular question is a topic I'm passionate about as the communications coordinator for the Hot Nigeria program. Storytelling has long been used, as far as I can remember, by large multi-corporations to humanize their brand experience, to connect with target audience. Today, youth-led innovators, micro, small, and medium enterprises, women-led or owned businesses have this powerful tool at their fingertips, and it helps them to articulate their unique value propositions or unique selling propositions, therefore positioning them in the right market. So through the Hot Nigeria program, we've actually seen remarkable examples of how storytelling has made market accessible to these youth-led innovators. I want to give an example of one of the actors we have worked with. Her name is Boluwatife Maybe. She is a farmer, but she ventured into farming as to deal with personal health challenges. And because of that, she's actually started with home gardening. But this story has actually made her very distinct within the space. And she's now able to provide these innovations to healthy, conscious consumers like herself, and has also landed a deal with a national online market site called Price Valley. In addition to Bolu, we also have Damlola Awe, who recently won the Dutch Agropreneur Award for 2024. She has used storytelling to position herself as a credible aggregator within the horticultural and agricultural space in southern Nigeria. So in gaining that visibility, she creates a market for rural women and young farmers in very remote areas, but at the same time has also gained the visibility to attract markets for the produce that she takes from remote areas to supply them. And beyond using storytelling to access markets, these entrepreneurs have also used storytelling for advocacy. A good example is also Bolu again, who is a strong advocate for maternal care for rural women in the remote areas that she works, and also uses storytelling to advocate for things like training, capacity building on good agronomic practices and eco-efficient solutions. She actually used her storytelling, that's Bolu, to get us to collaborate with her, and that's why we've been working with her to push forth healthy foods out there. So in a nutshell, I would like to say that storytelling is a powerful tool. Beyond giving access to markets, it's a good tool for advocacy. It's a good tool for fostering inclusion and telling the stories of rural women out there. Thank you very much.
Absolutely, and thank you for such an insightful response. And I'd like to follow up with another question. So based on your experience, how can digital marketing and PR help scale youth entrepreneurship initiatives in the ag sector to create more equitable food systems?
Thank you very much for this insightful question. PR and digital marketing are game changers in today's marketplace, especially for young entrepreneurs in the agricultural or horticultural space. So storytelling through PR helps, unlike storytelling, which I just talked about, that helps to build brand awareness or gives brand exposure. Digital marketing and PR takes it a step further by scaling these entrepreneurs into new market frontiers through the amplification of their visibility. And this is pertinent for those who are in remote areas. This is pertinent for those who are in underserved regions. So the combination of, I'm sure some people may be asking, okay, how? But the combination of public relations and digital marketing is very essential for attracting partners and investors, as well as consumers to businesses. And this builds their credibility, right? The PR and the digital marketing builds credibility of these various entrepreneurs, making them to attract these actors that I have mentioned. But beyond getting access to finance, digital tools in particular also provide opportunities for access to knowledge sharing and continuous learning. So entrepreneurs who have access to webinars, have access to e-learning tools, have access to online communities are able to gain new knowledge that helps them to thrive as well as innovate for their business and for communities. A great example again, I don't know if anybody in the room is familiar with this name, but the wizard farmer here in Nigeria, he's also known as Samson Prolific on Instagram and other social media platforms. You guys can actually check him out, but he's actually an influencer, a young influencer in the horticultural and agricultural space here. And he has been able to build his brand. He has been able to network with people in the space. He has been able to engage with stakeholders and also advocate. I believe anybody, any entrepreneur who has access to knowledge, has access to partnerships, has access to visibility, is equipped to actually contribute to the development of equitable food systems. Thank you.
Absolutely, and thank you so much again. I want to now pass this on to Ray to talk a little bit more about IP and land grants. So thank you.
Awesome.
We're actually going to do a short Q&A really quickly before we move on to our closing remarks. So if anyone has any questions, feel free to ask our panelists.
Very, very interesting. Thank you. Stefano from Bayer. And I have a question. Who in this room knows it's just one example, the Agribusiness Capital Fund, so-called ABC, except for you? So raise your hand if you know it. That tells us a lot. The lack of knowledge about what's out there. The ABC, it's an EFUD program to support startups, among others, in the agri-food system. And it's been there for 10 years probably now, a bit less than that. And still, we are in the same room. She's in the same panel as you, and you are talking about how to leverage the IPs that come out from the innovations that come out from the universities you're part of. And we don't know what each other is doing. And we're talking to EFUD. We have the luxury of having an EFUD senior representative here. And one simple question was not asked yet to her, like, what is EFUD providing to support the startups? EFUD is one, $2.3 billion last year. World Bank probably tenfold that amount. USAID 1.3 billion for food systems in the world. So these are numbers, but we have to know how to get there to those money, and they go through programs. And so I think we have to also leverage AI to make sure that we all, with a click on our laptop, I have an idea, I have a solution, I have an innovation. I work at the university. How can I do it? Let me look. EFUD. This is the description of what I'm doing. Is there some matching program? So it should be as easy as that. When I used to work at the university, one major problem in Italy, which is a major problem to get funding in Italy, we didn't have an expert to get funding from the EU. Once we found that was the bottleneck, we didn't have an expert who knew which funds were out there existing. When we found out that was the bottleneck, then we started getting funds from the EU. So the money is out there. The programs are out there. We just have to find a better way to know that they are there.
Stefania, thank you so much for that intervention and for mentioning the ABC fund, which is one of the financing mechanisms that we have. Specifically for universities and for startups that are really at the incubation space, that's what the Moonshots for Development Alliance is doing, because the ABC fund is a little and actually that's a really good point as well. You know, it's not only the financing mechanisms that we have available out there, but understanding which one is the right fit for you, for your company at the stage of development where you find yourselves. So if you're incubating, but you have already proven effectiveness, which means basically that you are out of the valley of death, then that would be the Moonshots for Development Alliance financing. But the ABC fund and also IFAD's new private sector financing facilities, those are for companies from the private sector that are ready for major investments of 25 million and over. A very key point that we haven't mentioned yet is the procurement. We have over $10 trillion in procurement that tend to go always to the same companies. And that is because our inability to really outreach and to really be able to send the news to many, many more participants. So that's another effort that we're working on with the other IFIs as well, so that not only we can reach out to more private sector companies that can benefit from these from procurement opportunities, but also from financing opportunities, but also to ensure that female-led companies are also more part of these initiatives. Right now, the participation rate is quite low from female-led private sector companies.
Thank you both for those amazing remarks on that issue. And I agree, like continue to bring awareness to that. And I'm glad we were able to start with that today and bringing that up and discussing that. I think we have time for about one more question before we move on to our closing remarks, if we have any others in the room or on Zoom.
So very good question again. And I would like to emphasize, in addition to the Moonshots for Development Alliance initiative, we also are launching soon another initiative for skills development. And it does much more than skills development, because it's really working with the private sector so that we identify gaps in the markets and potential partners that the private sector can work with when they are opening operations or when they want to enhance operations in the global south. So we are launching with the European Institute of Innovation for Sustainability, the Rural Development Innovators Fellowship Program. We are going to start with a pilot of a maximum of 20 talents that will be sourced globally. And this was born as an idea of another pilot that we run that is called the Food Talent Camp. The idea is not to create jobs for these people, but to really create leaders, people that will be starting their own businesses and becoming suppliers, partners of these large private sector companies, but also having their own innovations brought up to a higher level and to a higher scale. So that's one of the initiatives that we have. At IFAD, we have a community of practice. Some of you are already members of it. There's the IFAD Innovation Network. It's very easy. If you Google IFAD Innovation Network, it's very easy to find. I would highly recommend that you become members of the network because of what Stefano was saying. Every time that we have financing opportunities, a new financing mechanism coming out, or an innovation challenge, scholarship opportunities, fellowship programs where you can participate and compete, then those announcements go on the IFAD Innovation Network. Unfortunately, so far is the best way that we can find to bring all these different initiatives together through these mailing platforms to inform people. Of course, we also use social media extensively, but social media is difficult to track, right? So for us, email remains still, and these mailing lists remain still a very reliable way to communicate. And of course, collaboration with governments, so that the identification of these startups that are promising can also be mainstreamed. But we also welcome ideas. So if you have ideas of how we can do that, please let us know.
Thank you so much for that response and for highlighting that great initiative that you all are working on. Emily, if you don't mind for a second, talking about like how on a university level, we work with like lower income students trying to start these type of like programs and like starting out as entrepreneurs.
Sure. So I'll say, within my role, I'm not really working on the student side so much, but we have, I think, kind of two separate initiatives for startups at Virginia Tech. One is our launch group, which focuses on kind of graduate students and faculty and equipping them with the resources they need for startups. And regardless of income level, I think a lot of faculty have been in academia so long that they don't have any of those skills that we've been talking about today for how to actually, approach a startup at all. So, the more that universities can invest in programs, like the launch program that's educating faculty, bringing those funding mechanisms together under a single umbrella and kind of pointing them in the right direction. They also provide a lot of skills development to help them, take those first steps in the entrepreneurship journey. On the other side, we also have the Apex Center for Entrepreneurship, which I think is focused more towards undergraduate students. So undergraduate students, unlike graduate students and faculty members, kind of in our university policy, kind of own their own intellectual property. And so they can actually take something without licensing from the university and turn it into an idea. So having, similar initiatives like that for undergraduate students, teaching the entrepreneurship skills. I think that's really the building blocks and the first steps for getting students into the world of science and innovation, inspiring them and helping them understand that they can, whether it's licensing from a university or coming up with their own idea, they have the ability and the resources around them at the university to gain those skill sets to get into the entrepreneurial journey.
Thank you so much for that. I just want to give a big thank you to all of our panelists today, both in person and online, for contributing to our panel and providing such great resources and insight to the programs that they're working on and kind of the insights into this field and entrepreneurship as a whole. We're now going to move on to our closing remarks from us as students. So we're going to start with Jet and Ray.
Yeah, thanks again. And thanks again for Stephanos and a few other folks for adding on some more thoughts there at the end. As we can see, there is so much awesome research sitting in these universities that could be applicable in agriculture, and not just like digital technologies, right? There could be material science, right? We're talking about different proteins and stuff of that sort. It could all be applied to agriculture. But as we discussed, it is so hard to go from that university gate to that final end product because all these resources are so disparate, right? We don't know what the right financing methods are sometimes. Sometimes we can't find the right team members. All of these are super big problems. And the other thing is students, right? We're really here to talk about youth. That's what the World Food Forum is also about, right? And youth want to get involved in entrepreneurship, but sometimes they don't know how to start, right? Sometimes they don't have the right educational resources to know, hey, who do I go to learn about entrepreneurship, right? And that's really what I think this entire panel is about, right? We're trying to figure out how do we teach youth, get them more involved, get them more educational resources to learn about what entrepreneurship is all about. And that way the youth can be the next generation of leaders to take these products forward, right? And I think, Jet, you could elaborate a little bit more on that.
Absolutely. And I think a big issue that we have, especially with students in university, is the lack of awareness on being able to use and work with universities like Virginia Tech and like Penn State to use IP for your, and be able to scale that out in the real world and be able to, be entrepreneurs, make your own companies. And I believe it highlights, as you mentioned before, the need for information, especially for underrepresented students and people globally. There's so many wonderful ideas. Just walking around here, you can see all of the brilliant people that come here and bring their ideas. And there are some very big things that happen here. And the need for information to help them get funding or just the ideas or really anything they need to further themselves, it's just a huge gap that I believe working with very influential people such as yourselves and working with universities, that we can really come together and give all of these groups the information they need to succeed.
100%, Jed. I completely agree. Because actually I have a lot of examples from that. And tying what Emily said together about how the Apex Center for Entrepreneurship and also CAUS Global really gave me the tools and lift that I need to really start my journey. So it started my sophomore year in college. I applied to become a market research assistant to create a fortified rice commercialization strategy through Dr. Agnew and Dr. Thompson. And I had the blessing to work with WFP Cambodia. And I completely fell in love with food security, innovation, entrepreneurship, and also communication through there. I can't believe it. I can't say how grateful enough I am because I would not be here today after that. But not only that, how Emily and also Jet mentioned how a lot of students have amazing ideas, don't know where to place them. But also I want to mention like how the carryover happens where you don't just learn from your only experience that you get, but you take so many other things away. So for example, Dr. Agnew mentioned the Apex Center of Entrepreneurship for me, and I had no clue what that was. So she encouraged me to pitch there. I pitched there my junior year. I became runner-up and I fell more in love. And it helped me also pitch at the Transformative Research Challenge, which was yesterday, where we also became runner-up. But that's also not enough for students. I don't want to say that's not enough, because that is definitely enough, but I would say it doesn't just take intrinsic grit for success, it also takes support, as Gladys mentioned. And with the Global Agricultural Productivity Report, which was created by COWS Global, recommends prioritizing agricultural innovations systems for future policies and investments. And these systems create dissemination and adoption pathways for new knowledge, technologies, and practices. So I guess wrapping up, it's not only just what you know in yourself and what strength you have within yourself to carry out these projects, but it's also the strength to collaborate with others, invite others with you, and invite people to create more success.
Well, that's Teresa, thank you. So like Teresa was saying, COWS Global has played an integral part in both of our experiences at Virginia Tech. We are both here today at the World Food Forum, thanks to COWS Global and the work of Dr. Agnew and Dr. Thompson. So thank you to both of them for these opportunities. But so something that we also have in COWS Global is the Student Leaders Program. And this is one of our experiential learning opportunities for students from various disciplines from across multiple colleges at the university. We work in groups to find solutions for the UN SDGs by using a transdisciplinary systems-based approach. We curate knowledge from multiple global agencies by going on different trips, meeting with a lot of government officials, trying to get a greater understanding of what is being done in the sector, what resources are available, and how we can use those to create innovative plans that actually create change in the agri-food system and in the world. Rather than just kind of talking about the ideas, we develop a true plan and work to help carry that out. So this is a great opportunity for students, especially when you don't have initial access to some of these programs or some of these offices, to kind of get in contact, to create connections, to start building on your plans and creating a plan for the future.
Thanks, Austin and Teresa, just describing about the opportunities available in COWS Global at Virginia Tech. Now, I want to reflect on the whole discussion today. And I realized that financing is one of the major bottlenecks to scale these innovations from universities or lab to the ground, right? But reflecting on the discussions from you and all the panelists, I also realized that skill development, training is other bottlenecks. So I 100% agree on you that we should act now to develop a ecosystem where we can bring all the stakeholders, including universities, private sector, industry, and international agencies. For example, academia can lead those research and innovations up to the proof of concept stage. And Emily mentioned that financing is the bottleneck from that point, right? So maybe beyond that stage, industry can come in and move that innovation to the broader scaling phase. And international agencies like FAO, IFAD can come in by providing financial support, policy guidance, and facilitating global collaborations to ensure that these innovations are not just successful in one region, but throughout the world, specifically in the global south. And I believe that this collaborative model ensures that agricultural solutions are not only scientifically sound, but also practically feasible, because we are engaging here universities, industry, and also the international agencies. And these are also commercially viable and globally impactful. And thank you all for all the insightful discussions and coming to our session.
I'd like to echo that. So if I could summarize maybe what I think a next step and action point would be is maybe, actually not that complicated, but just better information sharing to help young people place their ideas of how they can participate in entrepreneurship and scale widespread adoption. So sometimes it's not super complicated. Sometimes we just need to share more information. And I think that through the GAP initiative and through a network of partners, land grant universities, it's a common question we've been hearing about how the US can engage more with the Rome-based agencies. I think this is something that certainly is actionable with not a significant amount of resources. So that's an exciting finding, that it doesn't need to be too complicated. So thank you again, and thank you to the students who did a phenomenal job facilitating this panel, and for all of you to coming today. I would encourage you all to chat a little with the students on your way out so they know you, and help them place their ideas in this global ecosystem. Thank you again.